आई थी तूने कि नहीं उसको बोल के बच्चे कहाँ से आते हैं, बच्चे तो टाइम पास कर देंगे।
So good morning one and all present here, and welcome to the fourth day of the certificate course program on human rights. Today we have with us Professor Dipali Amle. Ma'am, you are
Dipali
Angode.
Haruvede, sir.
Angode. Okay. She is
Participating.
she is assistant professor, Department of Law, University of Mumbai. Ma'am will be taking today's session, and we hope that the deliberation what ma'am will deliver today will be very useful and insight to all the students present here. On behalf of Department of Law, University of Mumbai and Gilamlani College of Commerce, I personally, ma'am, welcome you on the virtual dais. Hope you are doing well and be safe with your family, as well as we eager to listen to you, and we hope that this deliberation will be the best deliberation as per your expertise and knowledge towards this. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Actually, even I'm very much grateful and thankful to Dr. Jitendra Ahirkar, sir, the principal of College of Commerce and Economics, for organizing this workshop, certificate course, okay, in collaboration with us, sir. So thank you so much. So can we start now?
Yeah, ma'am, we can begin with. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay, I will share my screen also.
Yeah, ma'am, will do.
अरे बंद करना अर्जुन. Yeah, is my Shantam, is my screen visible now?
Yeah, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, yes. So, yes, so good morning, all of you. Good morning, dear students. Good morning, principal sir, and even the faculties of the college. So yes, today we will begin our session with the topic that is, I have selected one topic that is the significance of human rights education in India. You might have gone through the through this particular when the course has started. So you have studied the historical background of human rights, then the role of a judiciary in the protection of human rights as well. So even human rights education is an essential and important part of the human rights jurisprudence. Why? Because again, it is a science of a law. It is one of the very important, subject which has a close nexus with the human rights. So, what is mean by human rights education? What is, and for to understand the conceptual analysis of human rights education, we need to understand that what exactly human rights means, what exactly education means, because it is a combination. It speaks about education, it speaks about human rights. So the education which speaks about human rights, that is a human rights education in general. Okay, so first we will understand that what is the notion of a human right. We know that human rights are basically, these are the basic, natural, inalienable, indivisible right, which are, having, which cannot be waived, which cannot be taken away. So these are the human rights. It establishes the basic standards and principles without which no any person will survive, without which no one can live like a human being with a standard and dignified manner. So human right, it speaks about right to life. It speaks about right to liberty. It speaks about right to education. It speaks about certain civil right, political right. It speaks about equality, justice, affirmative action, protective discrimination, right to development. So these are the rights which are available to each and every person, which are required, which is essential for his or her own development. So that development is a social development, economical development, political development, or even it can be a cultural development. And therefore, this notion of a human right, it is applicable universally and equally. Why, it is applicable universally? Because they are same for all human beings, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their creed, irrespective of their ability, irrespective of their disability as well, irrespective of their place of a residence, place of a birth. And therefore, they need to be incorporated equally by state. In other words, every nation is under obligation to protect and to promote these human rights. And not only protecting or promoting, but recognize those rights, enforce those rights as a human rights in their respective legal system. If you see the definition of human rights, it has been stated that under the Section 2D of Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, that human right, it means the rights which are related to the life, liberty, equality, dignity of an individual, guaranteed under the Constitution and embodied in the International Covenant and enforceable by courts in India. See, as we have discussed the notion of a human right, it is inalienable, it is indivisible. Inalienable, it means something which cannot be taken away. These are the rights which cannot be waived, which cannot be taken away by anyone. These are your natural right. Okay, that is what, for example, right to life. This is your natural right. No one can take your life. These are indivisible right. The indivisible, it means something which cannot be divided, which cannot be split up into pieces, which cannot be distinguished, which cannot be waived also, which cannot be separated. So no one, even a person who has a right to exercise those rights, even that person cannot waive his own right. These rights are interdependent as well. Why? Because if you see all these human rights, okay, they are depending on each other, isn't it? Because if you see, for example, right to education, it is again right to life. close nexus between right to education and right to life, because without education, no one can survive a standard and dignified life. Right to health it is essential component of right to life. To have free and pollution free environment, it's a part of a right to life. So these rights are interdependent on each other, and that is why because of which the standard and dignified life is important part of a life. So as per the definition, all these the rights which are related with the life, liberty, equality and dignity of the individual, because again it is not only limited, because right to life it has been interpreted in a various way. There are so many rights which has been interpreted by judiciary. Okay, because again further it is stated that it is impossible by courts in India. So enforcement, interpretation of those rights, protection of those rights, it is the task of the judiciary, isn't it? It is a role of a court, and this role wherein judiciary has interpreted n number of rights as a part and parcel of right to life. As far as education is concerned, we know that what is the value of education in everyone's life. It is one has stated that the education is a third eye of a human being. ज्ञान हा मानवाचा तिसरा डोळा आहे असं म्हटलं जातं. Why? Education, what is the value of a education? What does education it means? Education is a process of facilitating the learning of the acquisition of a knowledge, skills, then values, morals, belief, and the personal development. So education, it brings an inherent permanent change in person's own thinking. It makes you to learn something. It makes you to develop your skill. It makes you to develop your capacity to do certain things. It tells you, it pursue knowledge also. Okay, it makes you to learn that certain things should not do. So education plays a very important role. It is again, it is a very basic, important, base of a human rights. And through education, human rights can be developed, because human rights cannot be studied or taught without, linking it with the education. Why? Because again, education, it is basically a common factor which everyone is pursuing. Education, it is one of the medium, it is one of the important tool. It is a model basically through which everyone can take the benefit, and through which everyone everyone learns something. So as far as the importance of education is concerned, even under Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1946 preamble, okay, the preamble of UDHR is stated that every individual and every organ of a society shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms. See, the kind of interrelationship between the education and human rights, how the education should be, wherein it is responsibility of a not only of a person or even of the society, but even it is a role of the state also, that every individual, okay, and every organ of the society shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these fundamental rights and fundamental freedoms. Further, Article 26 is also, it is provided that every one has a right to education. It shall be a free, at least in the elementary and the fundamental stages. We know that even under Indian Constitution, free education shall be made available, and that is a responsibility of the state. So education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality so as to strengthen the respect for human rights and fundamental freedom. It shall promote the tolerance, understanding among the nations, and grow a friendship with the nations racial and religious group. So education plays a very important role to enhancing the values of human rights. As far as International Covenant on Civil, Economic, Social and Cultural Rights are concerned, 1966, even Article 13, it speaks about education. It is both human right in itself, and it is an indispensable means of realizing others' human right. That is what? Right to education itself is a fundamental right. Itself is a human right. And therefore, it is an indispensable mean. It's a real mean. It's an important mean, tool for realizing others' human rights. Because if you have a certain right, if you are having certain human right, okay, it is you will also realize the values of others' human right. Again, Article 15, speaks about, that is, it actually it lays down the role and responsibilities on the part of the state to promote and facilitate the teachings of human rights and fundamental freedoms at all levels of education. So it is the responsibility of the state. It is the obligation on the part of the state to promote, to facilitate the teaching of human rights and fundamental freedoms at all levels of education. We know that, at a primary level, even pre-primary, the inculcation of human rights is very important. For secondary level, even at graduate level, undergraduate level, and even, at PG level. So at all the levels, the inculcating of those values are very important. Now, what is mean by human rights education? Human rights education, it is all about learning the develop the knowledge, skills, and the values of a human rights. It speaks about education, human rights education, as a education, training, awareness, raising the information, practices, and activities which aim by equipping the learners with knowledge, skill, and understanding, and developing their attitudes and behavior to empower learners to contribute to the building and defenses of a universal culture of human rights in a society with a view to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms. See how much, teaching is important. Teaching is as important to impart education, to promote a respect. The definition of the Council of Europe Charter 2010, it has laid down the objectives also. That is to strengthen the respect for human rights and fundamental freedom, to full, development of a personality and the sense of its dignity as well. It promotes the understanding, tolerance, gender equality, and friendship among the nations. It speaks about the indigenous people, racial as well as national, ethnic, and linguistic groups also. So what human rights education makes you to learn? It enables all the persons to participate effectively in a free and democratic society governed by rule of law. It building the maintenance of a peace, promotion of a people, with the center sustainable development and social justice. In a nutshell, human rights education, it has a different dimensions for the protection and promotion of human rights. It includes, if you see the definition, it includes the knowledge, it includes the values, it includes the actions also. Knowledge, it means the first, essential attribute of human rights education. Knowledge which providing the information about human rights, about fundamental freedom, and the mechanism which exist to protect and promote those rights, those fundamental freedom. There are different mechanisms: legal mechanism, judicial mechanism, administrative mechanism. Remedies have been made available. If there is a violation of human right, then remedies are also being provided. If you see Article 32 and Article 226 of Constitution, right to access to court is a fundamental right, to have justice, to have remedy. So knowing the knowledge about human rights is also not enough. So it does provide information about those rights and fundamental freedoms, but mechanisms also plays very important role which are essential to protect and promote those rights. How, justice can be achieved? What are the remedies for violation of human rights? So that is what, for that, to understand those things, human right education is important one. Value, beliefs, and attitudes. These are also essential, the components for promoting human right culture through the development of this process, because education is a continuous process. It is a process. And actions. When we are saying that actions, it means that these are required for encouraging the people to defend human rights and to prevent human rights abuses also. Again, if we go further, there are other international organizations, because human rights education, it's a global issue. It is not only limited with one society, not limited with one state. Okay, either the state is underdeveloped, developed, or even developing state. Each and every nation, it requires human rights education. It is a global issue. Okay, it is a universal issue. It is applicable all across the world. So at international level also, the efforts were taken to promote, to impart the human rights education. So Amnesty International also has provided that human rights education, it is a process whereby people learn about their rights and their rights of others within the framework of a participatory and their active learning. United Nations World Program, wherein education, it is provided that human rights education, it is a education, training, and information aimed at building a universal culture for human rights. So at international level, we can see, we can analyze that the kind of initiatives were taken by the international, instrument or agencies. Even Asia Pacific Regional Resource Center for Human Rights Education, it is provided that it is a participative process, because it is education. It requires a participation. Okay, it is a process which requires, it is a participative process which contains deliberately, designed sets of learning activities using human rights knowledge, values, skills as a content aimed at the general public to enable them to understand their experiences and to take action, to take control of their lives. So these are the certain, international, base or the international initiatives which were taken. Now, we will discuss about what are the legal foundations of human rights education. Since, as we have discussed the provisions of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, okay, so Universal Declaration of a Human Right, it is enacted in the year 1948. It came into effect, it came into an existence. So after UDHR, since 1948, serious efforts were taken in the interest of human rights education, and slowly, the concept has developed, in its own way. In the year 1993, but the serious, again, sincere efforts, okay, they were taken after, we can see the development after 1990s. Okay, wherein the World Conference on Human Rights Education were held, and even they have defined that how human rights education is essential for promotion, for achievements of the stable and harmonious relations among the communities, for fostering the mutual understanding, tolerance, and peace. See, this is the era of the 1990s. Wherein, and even, as far as the historical incidences are concerned, after First World War, Second World War, we have seen there was not only at the international level, but, it has shown its great impact at the regional, at the national level also. So the violation of human right, okay, it was a continuously, it happened after one incident and other. So the need was felt, okay, at international level to take care of those things and to inculcate the value of a human right education. So with that intention, the efforts were taken by the United Nations and even the other international organization. Further, the General Assembly of United Nations, had declared the 1995, the period of those 1995 to 2004 as a decade of human rights education, wherein all United Nations member states affirms to protect, promote, to give the training and dissemination and information aimed at building of a universal culture of human rights. So, because of these, declaration, the respective nation and the government, they have started to take more efforts for promoting human rights, especially through their state education program. Because it was the declaration wherein the member state, they agreed to take care of this note. Again, the World Program on the Human Rights Education 2005 and onwards, wherein implementation of human rights education programs was made it applicable to all sectors. And that was made in a structured, in a consecutive phases. Why? Because why the application is important? Because it seeks to promote in all sectors. Why it is essential to apply, this concept of human rights education in all sectors? Because it promotes the common understanding of a basic principle and methodologies of human rights education to provide a concrete, provide a basic framework for the actions to strengthen the partnership and cooperation among the international level. Not only at the international level, but even at the grassroots level. So now this world program has structured in a consecutive phases to achieve the basic object of implementation of human rights education in all sectors. So if you see these stages, consecutive phases, the first phase, it was started in the year 2005 to 2009, wherein the focus, it was the human rights education, it needs to be provided at a primary and the secondary school system. The second phase, which is provided in the year 2010 to 2014, wherein it focuses on the higher education system and training program for the teachers, for educators, civil servants, even to the law enforcement officials and military persons. They also required human rights education. The third phase, it deals from the period of 2015 to 2019 for strengthening and implementation of first two phases. Okay, so it is a kind of a monetary phase, basically, the third phase, to monitor the implementation which were started to taken since 2005 to 2014 in the two phases. So strengthening and implementation of these two phases, that is what at the primary and the secondary school system, as well as higher education system, and the training programs even for the teachers, educators and civil servants. Okay, so monitor those things and also promote human rights training for media professional and journalists. So these are the third phase, these are the three phases, and the fourth phase, okay, that is for the period of 2020 to 2024, wherein youth, it becomes a focus group with the special attention on the education and training in equality, non-discrimination, human rights, inclusion, and respect for diversity, and to align the fourth phase with 2030 agenda for the sustainable development. Why youth is a it is a focus group? See, it is always said that student or the children are the future generation. Okay, youth, these are the active, as human rights education, it is a participatory kind of a process, participative process. Okay, it requires the attention of the youth also. They are taking education, they are learning something, they are in a such a phase as per age also. So it is very important for them to understand the notion of equality, to understand the concept of non-discrimination, to know about their human rights, because if they know about human rights, then they can even easily create the awareness about human rights in a society, as well as inclusion and respect for the diversity. With the basic intention of all these, the fourth phase, okay, it is more towards the sustainable development. We know that there are 17 goals of sustainable development, and all these phases, all these things have a close nexus with those 17 sustainable development goal, wherein the fourth goal of a sustainable development, it speaks about the inclusive and equitable quality education to promote the lifelong learning opportunities for all. Even the target 4.7, it speaks about education for sustainable development and human rights. All these sustainable developments, as I told you, that these are deals with like a zero hunger, end poverty, eradicate that is even impart education, better education, quality education. So even to have a clean and healthy environment. So these are the goals of a sustainable development, which every nation affirms to achieve those objectives till 2030. Okay, and therefore, human rights education, it makes align, okay, with the sustainable development goals. This particularly target 4.7 of a sustainable development goal, it is ensures that the all learners, the students, they can acquire the knowledge and skills which needed to be promoted for the sustainable development education, among others, through education. For sustainable development, different concepts have been given for sustainable development, human rights, then for promotion and culture of a peace, for the concept of non-violence, and even for the global citizenship. So education, it is an essential ingredient even for sustainable development. Now, what are the objectives of human rights education? Now we have understood that what exactly the notion of a human right is, what is the concept of education, what is the concept of human right education, what is its importance, and what are the international, what are the legal foundation, okay, which has been taken by the different, international instrumentalities. But what are the objectives? What it makes you human rights education? The objective, if you see, it makes the people understand about human rights and its values. It takes the responsibility for respecting, defending, and promoting human rights. It promotes, controls human behavior, isn't it? Because it is an education, it enhances your knowledge also, it promotes, it controls your behavior, human behavior. If you see, education, ordinary education, and if we again go in detail with the human rights education, definitely, the human right, the human behavior, okay, behavior of a behavioral pattern of society, it is depending upon the values of human rights which are there, existed in that society, in that state. So human rights education, it is essential. It makes you, it teach you what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what we should do, what we should not do. So ultimately, being a student of human rights education, it controls, it promotes the values of human rights, it controls the human behavior as well. It enhances the knowledge and understanding of human rights. It develops the attitude for respect, tolerance, solidarity, and responsibility towards others' human right. If you are having your own right, you will respect others' rights. Okay? If you are having your own right, then you will respect, that you will realize that you should not violate the other's right as well. So it is a responsibility towards human rights protection. If you have a sense of equality, you will not discriminate other people, isn't it? If you know about, justice, you will not do injustice with other. So this is give and take relationship. It developed the attitude of a respect. Maybe it is quite a philosophical one, but yes, it does matter. It makes a lot of difference. If you know, if you inculcate these values in your behavior, then it is you will live a standard and a dignified life in a real way. So it human right education, it developed the attitude of a respect, tolerance, and solidarity and responsibility towards other human right. It developed the skill and abilities for promotion, for promoting for, and protecting human rights. It affirms the commitment to peace and justice as well. It strives for adjudication of various conflicts and issues related with human rights. See, it makes you to learn how to adjudicate the matter, how to resolve that matter. If suppose, for example, and human right education, it starts from the family itself. It begins at a family level. Okay. Then slowly, at a class level, then toward the state level, then national level, and at international level. So if you understand the value of a human right education, whatever issues will be, whatever crisis will be, you will be able to adjudicate those conflicts in a amicable manner, in a peaceful manner. So human rights education, it strives for the adjudication of a various conflicts and issues related with the human right. Now, there are, different goals of a human rights education, because uh, it has its own objective, it has its own, intentions behind education, behind giving this human right education. So universality is a very essential, goal of a human right education to achieve that universality. That is what the notion of equality. If all human beings are equal, if no discrimination is there, if all if are treated equally, then ultimately human right education, it will be achieved one. Indivisibility, again, it is an extended version of equality which affirms that everyone should be treated equally, irrespective of their disability, irrespective of their ability, irrespective of their age, irrespective of their inability. Okay, so everyone should be treated equally, and that is what indivisibility, which is an extended form of equality. And interdependence also. Interdependence, wherein the exercise of one right, it is depending upon the other's right. You cannot exercise your own right as you wish, as you want, isn't it? And that is why even the fundamental rights which are enshrined in the constitution, it is coupled with the restrictions also. You have right to life and personal liberty, but it has a limitation. You have your freedom of speech and expression, but it has a limitation. And those limitations have been expressly given in the clauses, in the section, in the articles, in the express provision of the constitution. Even equality, we know that no right is absolute in nature. We cannot exercise all these fundamental rights in a absolute manner. Every right has its own restrictions. State, and that power, it is in the hands of the state to exercise those restrictions. Why? Because it is simple, objective is that you should not exercise, you should not disrupt the other rights also. You too have a right to religion, you too have right to a life, okay? Right to live a life in the way you want. No, it is not absolute right. If it hurts, if it is violative to the other's right, then ultimately, you can't exercise those rights in a fullest manner. And that is what Article 14, 15, if you see, okay, these are base of the human rights education. Article 15, wherein non-discrimination on the ground of race, religion, caste, sex, place of birth has been given, right? Even Article 16, 14, it is about the right to equality. I will not go into the detail of all the legal provisions. But Article 16, it also provided for the equality in the matters of a public employment. Abolition, Article 17, it speaks about the abolition of untouchability. Everyone should be treated equally. Article 21, right to life and personal liberty. You have your own right to life and personal liberty. And Article 32 and 226 of the Constitution, are very important, wherein the remedies, and these are the constitutional remedies. Okay, if your rights are violated, then the remedies also have been made available under Article 32 and 226 of the Constitution in the form of the writs. If you know the values of human rights, even as an ordinary person, it is not required to, for the enforcement of a fundamental right, not only of yours own, but even for the others' right, you can file, you can make an application, you can make a petition before a Supreme Court under Article 32 and before High Court under Article 226 of Indian Constitution. That is what public spirituated person. Those who understand the values of the human rights of others, and we know there are so many cases, public interest litigation, okay, the petition litigation which has been filed in the interest of public. See how, it is a participative process. If one person is understanding the value, the importance of others' right, and for that, for those rights, if you, and for the exercisement of those rights, if you are fighting, that is also and for that reason, the provisions have been made. The doctrine of a locus standi, has been liberalized by the judiciary through various judicial judgment. So human rights education, it is a very important, as a part of the justice. It teaches about human rights. It teaches about the values of a fundamental freedom. Okay, so what is important? The important is a responsibility. It is responsibility is not only towards the government alone, but also towards an individual, okay, and a society as a whole also. Because if you see, part 4th of the Constitution, it deals with the directive principle of the state policy. Number of, obligations are there wherein state has to fulfill. Even these are the duties of a parents also, of every organ of the society. Thus, it is a responsibility of all citizens in a democratic society like India, wherein the values of human rights will be flourished. Okay, the notion of a human rights will be developed. And for that purpose, the active participation of a person, of a people, okay, of every person is required one. Moreover, human rights education, it is a process through which the people and communities, they are able to take the decisions in their life. It is a adjudicative process as well. It makes you to adjudicate the matter. But there are again, certain models of a human rights education which deals with the different models to incorporate these human rights education. First one is a values and awareness model. Values and awareness model, it focuses on the transmitting the basic knowledge of human rights, and it fosters its integration into the public values. It has actually historical and the philosophical approach, and it is based on the model wherein it talks about what people think of when the right are concerned with the target audience as a general public. Okay, so the issues which are related with the right to health, issues which are related with the clean and healthy environment, okay, pollution free environment, right to food, okay, these are the right of the society. So it deals with those rights. The second model, that is accountability model. These are the models, which are required to incorporate, to impart the human rights education. So accountability model, wherein, this model, it is associated with the legal and the political approach towards human rights, and wherein the beneficiaries are involved via professional roles. Okay, it includes the topics such as a code of ethics, then court cases, even the transparency, okay, in the administration of a justice, and even the accountability. For example, right to information. Okay, this is also a human right. Right to get information. Is this a human right? Yes, this is human right. So beneficiaries are involved as a professional roles in the accountability model. Then the third one is the the transformative model, which aims to empower the individual who are victims or abuse and the trauma. We know that in India, there are different sections of the society which are disadvantaged section society. These are downtrodden, so the society classes of a society. It includes women, children, okay, even the rights which are related with the children, rights related with the women, the rights of transgenders, okay, these are the victims of abuse kind of a treatment and the trauma as well. So this is the third module, which speaks about the incorporation. Now, what is the significance of human rights education? Human rights education, it deals with the various aspects. Why? Because it is a learning, it is a teaching process, and it is important a topic not only for the law teachers and the student, but also for each and every person, whatever his discipline is, whatever from the stream he or she is. That is why it is incorporated as a part of a curriculum in their studies at a school level, at a undergraduate level, isn't it, at a PG level, in the various universities. And therefore, human rights, again, this subject, it can be linked with any other. It is linked with the science, it is linked with the chemistry, physics, okay, even, as far as it is, again, depending upon the factors which are existed in the society also. Medical negligence, okay, if the patient dies due to the negligent act of the medical practitioner, of the doctor, liability, it is there, no doubt. On one hand, right to health is a fundamental right. It is the responsibility of other person to take care of his or her life. So it is this subject, it has an application even in the field of literature, drama, music. You cannot copy somebody's creativity, somebody's music. You can't. Why? Because to preserve, it is his own intellectual right, and those intellectual rights does human right. They are also human right. So human rights education, it deals with the various aspects such as equality, non-discrimination. So understand the values, okay, of those notion of equality, gender studies, bias, discrimination on the basis of sex, on the basis of a gender. It is violation of human rights. War threats, conflict resolution system, world order studies, environmental studies, sustainable development, anti-racism, social and cultural moral education. So these are the certain, aspects of human rights education, which every person needs to understand. Why basically the human rights education is required in India? There are so many efforts, have been made for the human rights education. We know that right to education, it is a part and parcel of fundamental right under Article 21, and even the special legislation was enacted. But to have this right to human right education, okay, the initiative which was taken after the Sikri committee report, which was established to with an intention to understand the values of a human right. And after that, the government also has made it very clear to incorporate this subject in a curriculum. But why the need is felt? to have the approach towards the education in a different, with a different aspect, with the human rights education. Because as far as the society, the structure of a society is concerned nowadays, okay, we call ourselves as a educated. Okay, education, we pass examination, we get good degrees at a undergraduate, we scored even good marks in 10th and 12th. Okay, we get good merit even in the undergraduate level, at a PG level. And even we are not securing 1 or 2 degrees simultaneously, we can do more than 1 or 2 degrees also. It is again depending upon the rules and regulations of the concerned universities. But what is the object of securing those marks, degrees in a life? Just to get a good job, to get a good salary, or even to get a good life partner. Because if you are educated, then ultimately, that is also one of the object. It is in your mind to have, good life, luxurious life. So ultimately, it increases the burden upon the parents, upon the children's and the teachers as well, to get, good satisfactory results in each and every examination. The school and colleges also, under kind of a pressure to, to have their 100% result. But again, the need is felt to realize that are we really providing the education which is essential to have a good human being? Because daily, if we read the newspapers, we can see, that the incidences, okay, wherein the incidences of murder, rape, even kidnapping, extortion, robbery, child pornography, dacoity, wherein age doesn't matter. Even the minor, children are involved in those crimes. So the cases even related with the unlawful assembly, violence, ragging, extortion. If you see, the ratio of the children who are involved in these crimes are quite surprising, are high. So in what it shows basically, it shows that on one hand, we are saying that India is a developing country, isn't it? But on other hand, if you see the situation, or if you see the condition, so many children, so many, the if you see the young, or in exceptional cases also, are involved in the drug addiction, drug peddling, peddlers cases. So where are we going? Whether the education has the value of a human right, whether the education, providing, inculcating you the values of a human right. And that is why, the need was felt to have, to provide this education, okay, from the primary level. So the standards and also the measurements also have been prescribed by the United Nations, wherein in early childhood, how, will you inculcate those values? Because to provide education in a more holistic manner, okay, it is essential to sensitize, okay, to make them realize their responsibility, their roles towards every person. And education is therefore, very essential, the part wherein they can, play a very important role. So at a primary level, from the age for 3 to 7 years, okay, how you will inculcate the values of a human rights? Will you teach them these are the list of a human right? No, it is inculcating through your behavior. Okay, so that is what respect for self, respect for the parents, respect for the teacher, respect your community, respect your neighbors also. So these are the values which can be inculcated at a primary level. In a later childhood, that is what upper primary school, wherein ages of 8 to 11 year, wherein the sense of a responsibility, make them aware about their social responsibility. That is what, again, a different, examples can be given. It includes the social responsibility, citizenship, distinguishing the wants from the needs and the rights. Again, at the lower secondary school, wherein the ages of 12 to 14 years, the knowledge of a specific human right is also very important. What are the human rights? That is what adolescent age. You are able to understand certain things, though it is a middle age, immature age, but understand the knowledge, the values of a human rights. The older adolescent and the adults were in upper secondary school. Okay, that is the adult group above age of 15. Okay, wherein the knowledge of a human rights standard and the integration of a human rights into the personal awareness and behaviors also can be inculcated. No doubt that human rights education, it is essential for each and everyone. Okay, why? Because it is important to have holistic society, to have peaceful society. But who needs human right education? What do you think? Are there any specific, the persons which requires? No, each and every person, even though, the law person who is well acquainted with the human right subject, those who are working in that profession, apart from that, each and every person needs to know about human rights education. So there are actually different classes: administrator of justice, which requires, which includes the law enforcement persons, including police, security forces, prison officials, even lawyers, judges, and prosecutors. Even though they know about the textual, the provisions of the Constitution, the terminologies of the different fundamental right, they know about different fundamental right, different various human rights, natural rights, but how to interpret those rights, that is a task of the lawyer, that is the task of the judiciary. Even while enforcement for protection of rights, human rights, the role of judiciary plays very important role. Law enforcement persons, the authority, that is why human rights, it can be protected, it can be promoted through two process. That is, one is a legislative process and the second one is a judicial process. Okay, in a legal terms, legislative process, it means enact certain laws, enactment of the laws. It is not only Indian Constitution or protection of Human Rights Act 1993, it deals with the human rights, but even other statutory enactment does speak about, it does provide it with the rights. The laws in intellectual property rights, laws as far as, the rights of women are concerned, PCPNDT Act is concerned, enforcement of a law enforcement person, lawmaking authorities. Okay, so even they requires the knowledge of a law. Even it includes police and security forces, prison officials, because we have also known that there are so many cases of a custodial death, the violation wherein there are the rights of detainees of a prisoners have been violated. Okay, so even prison officials requires the knowledge about human rights education. Indian judiciary is considered as a temple of a justice. Why? Because judiciary has protected, has promoted this notion of rights. All prisoners, if you see the criminal jurisprudence point of view, number of cases are there wherein their right to food, even they right to freedom of speech and expression. I will not go into the detail, okay, as far as judicial decisions are concerned, but yes, judiciary has protected those rights to have standard and dignified life, even though the person is in the bar, in the jail, behind the bars. But the execution of sentences, punishment beyond a specific, delay, it is also violation of human right. Right to compensation is also a human right. And even it has a legal the significance under international document as well. They do have a freedom of speech and expression. They can publish their own biography. They do have freedom of speech and expression. They do have a right to health. Okay, so to understand those values, it is important for the law enforcement person, prison officials, lawyers, judges, and prosecutors to understand the notion of a human rights education. Then other government and legislative officials, wherein the members of the legislature, public official, elected or appointed, members of a military, okay, they must understand the human rights education. Other professional, the third group, it includes educators like teachers, academician, the social workers. We know that there are so many groups of the which are working for the protection and for the protection of human rights. Okay, so these are the social workers, health professionals. Yes, if you see the kind of development of human rights, okay, in COVID-19 pandemic, health professionals, they need to know about human rights. We have seen, we have read also the news related with the right to food, which was when the proper food was not provided to the patients. Okay, but it is a one hand, it is a human right. Okay, so the journalists, even and the media representatives, they do requires human right education. See, role of a media is very important. Again, it is a different part of a discussion and deliberation, which requires, again, one lecture, because media, it makes you aware about certain rights. But nowadays, if you see, the role has been, somewhere has been changed also. So media representatives also need to know about, because everyone has a right to privacy also. Journalists, they should know about the rights of others. The fourth category, it is a class of a person which included the organization, association, and groups, which includes the women's organization, community activists, the civic leaders, minority groups, members of the business community, trade union, as well as the children and youth, students. This is a quite extensive kind of a list. Student at all levels of education, refugees and displacement persons, people of all sexual orientation. Okay, why? Because even LGBTQ, now it is I plus, even that is there. So even, their rights needs to be understand. Even they should know about their rights, and the society also know about their rights. So the people of all sexual orientation, poor people, whether in cities or even in the rural areas, people with the disabilities, yes, migrant workers, indigenous people, religious leaders, and the others with a special interest in the social and the justice issues. So all they need human right education. And I don't think so there is anyone is left, because each and every person's, required to know, to learn human rights education. Now, how to teach human right? See, there are again a different, method, formal method and informal method. Formal, wherein the curriculum, like a content based. There are different, ways also wherein this can be achieved. Field based, okay, observation based, local aspect. There are certain issues which are observation based. It means, if you are observing certain issues in the society, so it is related with the how to teach human right. Local aspect, national aspect. What is mean by this local aspect? The topics, the issues which are related, which are in a crisis, which are in question at that particular level. National aspect, the issues which are related, which are important from the natures, from the national perspective. and international perspective. Okay, so international, it means the issues which are at the national, international level, okay, which are related with the human rights. For example, terrorism. Okay, at national level, if you see wherein a kind of the like a Beti Bachao Andolan. Okay, it speaks about the right of an unborn female child, for which the act is enacted. It is a gross violation, female infanticide, female feticide. Okay. These are the violation of our human crimes, local aspects, the regional important aspect. And the other one is an informal method, wherein it included the live study, the method, group centric issues, ethical perspective. So these are the methods which are important to teach human rights education. Being a student, okay, of any of the faculty, human right education, which is incorporated, and that is why UGC also has made it very clear and directed to the universities, okay, to incorporate, to implement this human rights education in the study, irrespective of the any of the stream. Okay, so even as you're from the commerce background, even even in the arts, even at PG courses also, in all the stream, okay, this most of the universities has incorporated human rights education as a subject, okay, in their curriculum. Why? Because this is essential, this is very important part, wherein the values, wherein the not the philosophy, but yes, when if you understand the philosophy of human rights jurisprudence, then you will definitely incorporate in your behavior. It will reflect in your behavior. Okay, it will reflect in, and if each and every person, if understand those values of human rights. Okay, because again the curriculum, it deals with the theories of justice, it deals with the some international perspective, it deals with the role and responsibilities of the international organization, United Nations, other international organization which plays a very important role, like WHO, World Health Organization, ILO, Security Council is there, General Assembly, United Nations is there, which are working so strive hard for the protection and promotion of a human right at the international level. So the division or the classification of the nature of a human right or the pattern of a study at a different level, it is again a task of the of the educational institution, okay, that which parts at what level it should be incorporated, at a primary level, at secondary level, at in the college or undergraduate level, and even at PG level, to understand the values, the significance of human rights. In conclusion, I must say that human right, it is essential one. Okay, it is essential. Why? Because human right education, it promotes the notion of equality, justice, and liberty. It develops the democratic principles of a nation, rule of law, and good governance. Why? Because we are living in a democratic state. We know that we have, though we have not seen the struggle for independence, but yes, our grandparents, they do they did referred certain incidences. Even we know, as a part of a historical background of the struggle for the independence of India. Now we are living in a democratic state, wherein we do have our own right. Okay, so rule of a law, good governance, okay, to have those principle of a justice, equality, liberty, integrity, and unity of nation, this concept of human right education is important one, without which it is to have welfareistic state is not possible, to have equalitarian state is not possible. It helps to maintain law, it helps to maintain helps to maintain the social order and peace at a regional level, at a national level, and even at an international level. Moreover, it enhances the unity and integrity of the nation and universe. Because if you understand the values of human rights, okay, then ultimately it will build, it will, develop, it will enhance the feeling of a brotherhood, not only in the at an international level, okay, but just begin it from your home. Okay, try to resolve dispute at home, try to resolve dispute at a society level. Okay, and again, the need, the precautions to be taken. Being a student, what you can do for protecting those rights? There are so many things, even the day before yesterday, if you see the kind of incidents happen in the state of Karnataka on the hijab, wearing of a hijab, whether it is, and that was banned actually. And if you see the role of a student, okay, in so many andolan, if you see even at a BHU or whatever it is, wherever it is, knowing the human rights, because this does not only affect that premises, okay, it affects the state, it affects the society, it affects the nation as well. And the standard of a nation, it is depending upon the behavior of the society, upon the behavior of each and every individual. And that is why to enhance the value, to enhance the feeling of brotherhood is very important one. And that is why human rights education is essential, is significant fact. It is a most important factor of education, which needs to be incorporated at education at any of the level. So with this, I conclude this topic. If you have any question.
Girls, if you want to ask anything, you can raise your hand or you can write it down in the chat box. Ma'am, I personally don't feel that they may have some theory or some questions around.
Okay. No problem.
I would like to extend my vote of thanks.
Okay, it
Ma'am, you
means it shows that either you have understood something or you have not, have
but ma'am,
wishes.
especially what I say, you have explained in such a beautiful way. Probably they have understood it. They have understood it. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining with us. You have explained all the concept in a very detailed and a very best, in a very beautiful manner. So each and everyone who are not aware about anything, even they could understand easily. Thank you so much
Okay, thank you.
for accepting our request and joining with us. I would like to say one heart full of thanks to you for. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Girls, tomorrow we will join again at the same 11 a.m. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
all.
Can I
Yeah, ma'am.
leave
Thank
now?
you.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah.